Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jessica Vogelsang, and I am super excited to be here with Dr. Stacee Santi, who you have a very fantastic pedigree. You are not only the founder and CEO of Vet to Pet, you are the president, right, of the Colorado VMA, and
Yeah.
the chair of the telehealth task force. So, I mean, this is something you've been really into for a while, but the thing that's the most interesting to me that I have to ask you about is the roller skating champion of New
Oh,
Mexico.
yeah. I will post a picture in the comments because my mom
Okay.
just sent it to me the other day because she, during her COVID quarantine, is going through all of our childhood pictures.
Oh
And
no.
I don't know what she's doing. She's probably sitting in a room just crying because we're grown people now, but she sent this to me the other day. Yes, I won roller skating championship of New Mexico in the partners tango
Oh my
department.
God. You are a woman of many talents. That is incredible. But what I did want to talk to you about today, you have been posting so much awesome information in the Facebook group about sort of do-it-yourself options. And I think because of your background with the app development, you have a really good perspective on how people are approaching how to decide sort of what platforms to use and what their needs are. So what have you been seeing in terms of like how people are coming to us in the group when they're looking for answers?
It's pretty typical, I think, for people to get all, you see what everyone else is doing and you think, oh my gosh, I got to do that too. Especially when you're faced with challenges, right? Like serious challenges we're facing now with visits down, revenue down. Our whole concept of what a veterinary client experience should be is like now been turned on its heels, and it's scary. And so
Yeah.
we're trying to grasp, I feel like maybe we're out, we're a bit sinking and we're trying to grasp at the life raft and
Right.
figure out, like, take me with you, take me with
Yeah.
you. But we have to back it up because things never change in product, especially technology. If you don't know what problem you're trying to solve, you are like rolling the dice if the solution's going to stick or not. So
Yeah.
it's good time to kind of take a breath. I say grab the oxygen, don't grab the scalpel. Like, take a breath and really take a look at what's going on in your clinic, because we are not all the same. We are
Yeah.
similar, but we don't all live in the same demographic. We don't have the same pressures for our economy and our clientele. It just depends. So my answer to everyone right now is, like, take a breath and let's take some inventory on what your problem is, and
Yeah.
then you can come up with a solution. And maybe it's telemedicine. It very likely that is one of your solutions.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that people are sort of learning as they're coming into this is that you don't have to start with the most complicated solution. I think people are automatically going to that. And so then they have this solution in front of them, but like you said, they haven't exactly determined if that's the solution to their problem. And instead of focusing on live video, if that isn't a priority, like are you using things for curbside pickup to make the client experience better? But the problem that I'm seeing is that people who haven't started it yet don't know what those problems are.
Mm-hmm.
Once they start, they figure it out really quickly. But are there sort of categories of problems that you see people bringing up consistently, like the specific ones that they're trying to solve?
I mean, I think people are kind of in a couple of different spectrums, points on the spectrum. Some people are busy, 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 and they are still trying to figure out, how do we handle all these clients in this new way of social distancing. Other practices are super slow and they are struggling to keep the doors open. And then most practices are somewhere in the middle, right? Their visits are down, but they're not tanking exactly. And so it just depends, like, what
Right.
problem are you trying to solve? How many resources do you have to throw at this thing? That's another one. Are you a
Right.
solo practitioner and you're trying to do it all? That's a different setup than if I'm a 4 doctor practice and I've got 2 of my doctors off because we're doing shift work now
Yeah.
in trying to split the team. So are these people available? Are they willing to be on video? How are they also, this is a big one. What are people's personal risk comfort with the VCPR? I
Right.
personally I'm a riskier person in this area because I live in rural Colorado, and I'm quite versed. It's a standard in this area. We give advice all the time. I hope the boards aren't listening, to
But it's
clients.
legal, so it doesn't matter if they're listening. You can give advice.
Well, I've prescribed and treated
Okay.
to people I've never met during a blizzard in December in Colorado, and
And you're still
I've
here.
chosen. I'm so
They
I've
didn't sue
chosen
you
to
for
stick.
helping them?
Well, it puts me. Vets are in a different. They're like, sometimes your veterinary oath is here and the legal government is here, and you're like trying to figure it out. So it depends on how comfortable you are. Some people, like the poor California vets, you guys are like, holy cow, it's hard to
I can't do anything
you
really.
can't do anything. So the question for me, whenever people ask me what's the best telemedicine platform for my practice, I always say it depends. What are
Yeah.
you trying to do?
Yeah. I was trying to explain it to someone the other day, and I started thinking about the analogy of building a house, and if you go out and the first person you ask are contractors, like they're all gonna tell you that they're gonna give you the most beautiful house, and they're at like, it's great, of course I want a home theater, a tennis court, and a basement home gym, but maybe what I can afford something a little different, or I don't need all those things. And so I think that that's your point about understanding what those problems are and what your priorities are is really sort of the first place you need to go, before you decide what solution it is that you're going to go with.
And I think
So
people need to put things. I like when I'm working, especially in technology, I like to put things in two lists. There's the must-haves and the nice-to-haves.
yep.
And if you know what your must-haves, it's very similar to dating, really. If you know what your must-have list is, then you're not going to be dating people that aren't on your must-haves. You know, if you want that, if a must-have is it's got to integrate with your practice calendar, well, that limits you quite a bit. If your must-have list is you need it to be accessible by multiple doctors, well, that's a different setup too. So knowing what's must-have versus nice to have is really important. And let's just be clear, the more on your list, generally speaking, the more expensive it gets. So if one of your must-haves is it needs to be free or very inexpensive, that's also a different list for you to look at. So
Yep.
these kind of tactics can help you narrow something that's like 100 choices down to like 5, something more manageable. So now you can go get some demos and start to really dig in.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I'm seeing is, people are saying, okay, I want to do these demos, I want to get the whole platform set up, and then they're kind of being forced to wait, um, instead of like just trying a few little things right now. To me, the barrier, seems like it's more about understanding how to use these tools, really, so much versus what the tools are. Like, what can you do with telehealth? And I think starting really simple with the tools you're already comfortable with seems like a natural place to start, and then you can build out and you can bring in the more comprehensive solutions as those problems make themselves more clear. Like, what do you, because I know you've done some
Absolutely.
great
Like,
tutorials about the DIY.
well, absolutely. You're talking about in technology what's called lean startup. And you don't just go from A to Z in one movement. I mean, you can, but you're going to be asking yourself like, okay, how do I use this? What's the right protocol? What's the right way to do things? Like, there is no playbook, guys. That's the thing too. We're creating the playbook right now.
Yep.
So it's exciting, but if you're looking for the answers, the actual printed playbook, it hasn't come out yet.
There will
Um,
be one soon,
so
I think.
there will be one. We,
But yeah,
we,
we're working on
we will
it.
have one, but you want to start innovating gradually, because I just want to encourage the listeners, you know what your problems are. You more than anybody else, you care so much, you're so competent, you're so innovative. I know our vet people are the most innovative. um, people on the planet, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, we can splint a broken leg with a tongue depressor. We can make e-collar out of X-ray film. Like I know we
Right.
can do it,
The
but
point of pride for us.
you want to start small. You want to kind of try some free tools. Just get you. And what I usually do is I think, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll just sign up for the free version and I practice on my husband, or I practice on my friend, or I just pretend role play it like, oh, I'm the provider. Oh, I'm the pet owner. And I try to see, could I pull this off? Like, does this
Yeah.
seem like something I could do? And I start getting familiar with the basics, and then I can start working my way up to the advanced model.
Yeah, no, and I think that's so important. So this morning we did our first like post-pandemic healthcare visit with my son, and it was a basic follow-up. You know, it wasn't anything complicated, and it was one of those 5-minute visits where you say everything good, good, okay, but it took like so much drama to get to that point. So they had to call, and every single time they had something to tell me, they called me. They called me on the phone and left a message that they needed to talk to me. I'm like, this is, how can you pick the most advanced technological solution but communicate it to me in the most old school way? Like, I called you guys, we already spoke yesterday and the day before, and there's 3 different apps you wanted me to download. You never actually, you told me what they were, but you never sent me an email or like anything. I had to write it down on paper. Like, who does that? So it was like probably 3 hours out of my day, because of course, every time you call back, you got to listen to the elevator music because it's a human healthcare facility. So you're on hold for 20 minutes. And it just was so, the whole time I was thinking, okay, this is something we can't screw up. It would have been so much easier if they had sent me one email, or we could have done that,
Oh,
the chatting back and forth, or
rule
anyway.
number one is keep it simple for yourself and for your client, especially when you're trying a new technology. You've got to go for simplicity here, guys. And before you got to get time in the saddle, before you can start jumping the fences and doing the fancy stuff. I think it's quite risky for practices and stressful to go from someone who's not in technology and telemedicine to try to adopt some massive telemedicine protocol overnight. it's
Yeah.
it's first off, it's not really necessary to put yourself through that sort of stress. And the bigger you jump, the more chance you have to miss and
Yeah.
fail. So take a little jump. This is like a little you have the time to kind of do this, because like your experience this morning, I think honestly they could have probably accomplished a lot of that with a phone call. The
Right.
doctor could have phoned you and it could have been over. So don't overlook the obvious
Yeah. Yeah.
and jump to some big massive thing until you're ready. Once you find the need, if you find yourself on the phone with the client, you're like, man, if I could only see them, then
Yeah.
you know what you need.
Yeah, it's been really interesting sort of watching people parse out sort of that idea of live video, versus, can I handle this over sending you something? And again, like we were talking about before, it depends. Like even within the same practice, there's going to be different use cases where you want that video, but you don't have to have everything lined up right before you start. So you always have the option to change things around. And I think people feel really backed into the corner right now. We're going to get it perfect right out the gate. And just for
Yep.
everybody, it is not going to happen.
No,
It's going to
no,
be
take the
so
pressure off.
imperfect.
I would like to encourage you all to lower your standards, lower your bar. I was recently listening to this. I'm trying to do more fitness. I hate it. I suck at fitness, like working out and stuff. So I've been brainwashing myself with fitness podcasts, thinking if I listen to more,
You just
uh,
listen while you're sitting down.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, while I'm watching TV and eating, I can have like a podcast going. But anyways, I listened to Simon Sinek talk about trying to implement a new workout strategy at the beginning of the year, and he said he challenged himself to 30 sit-ups before bed every night. And he's like, the first night he did it and it was really hard because he had done none. And the second night it was still hard. And the third night he didn't do all of them. And the fourth night he did less. And by a week he was like, oh, I'll skip tonight. I'll forget it. And he realized really what he needed to do was lower his standard, and he challenged himself to one sit up. One. you know what? We can do
I like
one.
that plan.
And then maybe if we're inspired, we can do a second, and we're
Yeah.
winning now. We're not failing. So you want to really set yourself up for success. Do not over jump this, especially when you've got a lot of noise in your life with stress from
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and I heard people talking about a big Zoom data breach, because that's I think the platform, that the do-it-yourself platform that a lot of people are reaching out to right now. Um, and then that there are these concerns, and this is hard for me to sort of assess, because I'm not the one who's taking the risk of the practice manager with this stuff. But I look in the other room, and my husband works for a Fortune 500 company, also on a Zoom call. So I'm like, yeah, I think we're all working through things, but it's you
We're
still
learning.
kind of have to go. Yeah.
Have you heard of the Zoom bombers? Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah. So my son. Okay, there's four of us in the house right now on Zoom. My two children also upstairs on Zoom, and we just got the most apoplectic email, because one of the teachers didn't put the settings up right, and a naked guy came in to
What?
the eighth graders science class. Just like, I shouldn't be laughing. I guess I'm a horrible mom, but I'm like, oh crap.
Teacher
So
fail.
at least we haven't had that happen to our clients. But like, I mean, this is you think about how pet owners are, and you think about how parents are, and like the fact that that happened and they still survived. I mean, we're gonna have like the best stories to
We are.
tell. In my day, we used to have naked people jump in our classes, and we just had to deal. So it's wild. We are in wild times,
We
and
are.
I think
And
all we can, yeah.
these DIY solutions are not going to be, in my opinion, your long-term solution. They're your band-aid. They're like, let's just grab this right now because you know what? It's free to inexpensive. I can cut my teeth on it and I can get it up and running in less than an hour. That's what you're after right now.
Yeah.
But come a month or two down the road, you'll be more adapted and you'll be in a better frame of mind to shop for a long-term solution for yourself. So
Yes.
I just don't want people to jump into contracts and just do all this crazy stuff until you know what you want. And personally, I think video consults are going to be very critical, not for any other reason than this one, that as a profession we have always given advice away for free, and we've got to figure out how to start charging for the advice, and the video just adds a tech element that makes it seem more valuable.
Value.
and
No, and that's so true. That's a
and
great point.
honestly, I could probably do a dang near similar job with texting or a phone call, and pictures needed in some situations, of course. I can't think of many cases I would have to be on video. Maybe the nystagmus, old dog vestibular thing,
Yeah.
I could see that being helpful. But there aren't that many cases. But the video allows me to charge for my time now.
Yes, and thank goodness for that. That used to be a luxury, I think, where we could give away our time. Not even then, but that was sort of the excuse people gave. But we don't even have that luxury anymore. Like, if we don't
Well,
figure out
we've been
how to do
complaining
that.
about it as long as I've been practicing. I mean, people have been complaining about this forever.
Yeah.
So if there is a silver lining, this is the time to change your protocol. You might need a global pandemic to figure out how to start charging for your time, and don't waste the opportunity to pivot all that free advice. I'm not saying, you know, that you need to suddenly charge every single time you talk to anybody, but I
Right.
am saying the time is now to think about your options.
No, and I love how you framed it that way. Is one, like, this perception of added value, even from our end as the practitioners, because I think you get the free advice you get on Google, which is like garbage advice a lot of the times, right? And then you get on this end, and this is the diagnosis that we do once we see the pet and we go through all the diagnostics, and yet we only value like this one little chunk. But it's not like it's A or B. Like, there's this whole space in the middle where we're accumulating information that we're not charging for, because we value it like it's the Google garbage advice, and we think the clients value it that way, and they don't. They understand. And we're the ones who are like, I don't know.
No, we've made it normal. And I think a lot of times the clients would be willing to pay you for your advice, but you don't ask. So
Right.
the answer is always no if you never ask.
Yes.
You can,
Yes.
so this is the chance to change people. This is your chance. Um, Take it, go for it, change those protocols. I'm a big fan of saying, if you need me to call you back at the clinic, I, it depends on how urgently you need me to call. If it's today, happy to do it. We'll use an appointment slot of mine because guess what? I got to get home for dinner on time. But if you
Yeah.
don't mind waiting, we'll put you in the queue and I'll get back to you in the next week or two because that's how big my queue is. I think that is a very reasonable message to give to your clients.
Oh, 1,000%. And I think over the next, weeks and months, we're going to be seeing a lot more protocols as people sort out what that is. So I'm really looking forward to figuring that out. Thank you so much. You have made some really, really awesome tutorials, which are fantastic. They're on the resource page in the veterinary telemedicine Facebook community, but you also have them kind of at various different places. So if people want to learn more about the stuff that you're doing, where should they go to find you?
The best place is probably my website, vet2pet.com. It's VET, the number 2 PET. And I have a lot of blogs up there about different scrappy ideas for people out there like me. If you're
Scrappy.
scrappy and you're willing to put in some elbow grease, I can help you out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your wonderful insight.
Oh, thank you. And I just want to thank you for all you're doing, Jessica. It's really fantastic. Someone took the bull by the horns here and is wrangling in all these resources. It is not easy. And I'd like to commend you and Cheyenne and your team for all your hard work.
Oh, thank you so much. This conversation about going in and not knowing what you're doing, like this Facebook community is like proof positive that I have no idea, but we're figuring it out, which is the best we can do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet. Take care, everybody.